Well, hello everybody. Sorry again that it's been such a long time since I last uploaded, and sorry about the camera quality here. One of the reasons that I haven't been uploading, most of you will know that I'm currently getting stuck into my studies at Oxford, but one of the reasons is that I just don't have the time, so I found a little bit of time here before I go out this evening where I could have something to say, but I'll need to just use my webcam and put something very quickly together. I won't count this as a Patreon video or anything of that sort because I recognise the lower quality than usual, but it's an important issue. You'll remember if you've seen my past video that the last time I spoke to you was in reference to free speech and specifically Steve Bannon's invitation to speak at the Oxford Union. Now, I'm not a stranger to speaking about the same issue more than once in a row, as you'll know if you've followed my discourse on philosophy of religion and God, but if you're beginning to tire of talking about free speech, maybe twice in a row might be too much for you. Believe me, I'm getting bored of this too, but it's an incredibly important issue. Now, last time, like I say, I was talking about Steve Bannon's invitation to speak at the Oxford Union, which was a very controversial move by the union and attracted a big protest, and it was the protest that I was talking about in my previous video. This time, however, there is another protest planned for tomorrow's event. A different speaker, a right-wing politician called maréchal-le, is invited to speak tomorrow at the union, and another protest has been organised. But it's not so much the protest that I've got a problem with at the moment, because it hasn't happened yet. I don't know if it will result in the same kind of arrogance that the last protest did, with people actually blocking entrances, or whether it will just be a case of people voicing their dissent from this person's ideas, which I have no problem with, and in fact actively support the idea of that kind of protest. The thing that I want to speak about here is that because I'm from Oxford anyway, my local MP, my representative in Parliament, had something to say about this invitation, and I was less than impressed. So I've written to my MP, Annalise Dodds, before about the issue of faith schools. I mean, the letter was addressed to the Education Secretary, but I sent it to Annalise Dodds, and she sent it through, and I got a response, and it was very successful. I was very impressed with my MP. But some of the things that she said to the BBC about this invitation of Miss maréchal-le really did trouble me, and I'm struggling to see how I can continue my support for her as an MP if she doesn't address this quite urgently. So I've written a letter to her, and it's already been sent, but I told her that I was going to make it public as well, so that's what I'm doing here. I just wanted to read out the letter in a public format, and you can take it either as an insight into my kind of political ideas and the kinds of things that I'm doing to try to make sure that my local representative is representing me, or you can see it as a statement about free speech in general, which I'm trying to promote more of on this channel anyway. So without further ado, I'll just read the letter to you as sent to the MP, but do bear in mind that's the context. Somebody's been invited to speak in Oxford, and my MP, who is the MP for the constituency of Oxford East, has decided to say something about this invitation, and that's what I'm responding to here. Dear Annalise Dodds MP, it has been a year and a half since I last wrote you. You may remember an open letter I composed on the issue of state faith schools, suggesting that the government retract its plan to abolish the cap on the proportion of students that can be admitted as pupils on the basis of their faith alone. You were swiftly cooperative in forwarding my message to the relevant Parliamentary Undersecretary, and I was glad to see the plan was eventually abandoned. I was impressed by your willingness to help me as a constituent of Oxford East, and reassured to think that I had a representative in the Commons whom I could rely on. It is in part for this reason that I was so disappointed by your comments, reported by the BBC 17th of January 2019, of course the links will be in the description here, regarding the Oxford Union's invitation of Marion Maréchal-le to speak to its members on Tuesday. By the time you read this letter, the event may well have taken place, though perhaps if the Steve Bannon episode is anything to go by, only with a minority of would-be attendees actually able to get inside the chamber. And yet I hope that you do not therefore disregard the graveness of my concerns, which are not limited to the specificities of this event. In order to continue my support for you as an MP, I would need a response to some salient questions and requests. Firstly, since you referred to Miss maréchal-le as part of a, quote, new generation of fascists and as a, quote, racist, I must ask you to substantiate these claims with more than a passing reference to how she is, quote, known to be. I do not necessarily dispute your allegations, and they are in fact irrelevant to the most important of my concerns, but I'm beginning to tire of the annexation of indispensable terms like racist and fascist into the lexicon of those speakers and writers with mere concerns about right-wing views which I do not share but would never be so myopic as to call racist or fascistic without unequivocal proof. I'm confident that you would not make such a dangerous mistake, and thus I hope to hear from you with the references that corroborate your claims. Second, you assert, quote, "Our city is proud of its diversity, and yet the Oxford Union seems determined to threaten this," end quote. Though you do not specify which type of diversity you're talking about, I'm sure that you can't be referring to the most important of these, diversity of thought and opinion, since you feel that a private institution hosting a talk somehow poses a threat to it. My request here is twofold. I'd like to know how precisely you think this talk threatens the diversity of Oxford City, which you rightfully report that I, as both a local and a student, am proud of. And if it does, could you please tell me, which do you feel is more dangerous? Allowing controversial speakers to talk to an educated audience, or allowing the general public to be the arbiter of permissible speech? To me, the latter resembles mob rule and assumes the arrogance of infallibility. The former option is not a perfect solution, but nor does one exist. Could you please inform me of the level of your commitment to freedom of thought and expression, and how any amount of such a dedication can square with the views that you've expressed? Finally, and my principal reason for writing to you, I was absolutely dismayed by your reference to the, quote, "utter waste of police resources that will be required by her visit." Can you think of a better use of public resources than the protection of free expression? Perhaps there may be a few, but to call the defense of the very principle that makes our country a free one an utter waste of police resources, I think is a mistake that verges on the severity of requiring a retraction. You, quote, "hope that those running the Oxford Union will grow up, yet I can assure you that those who organise these events do not treat their responsibilities lightly, and in fact it seems to me that if anything is indicative of the abdication of the duty to defend diversity, it's not the Union's invitation of Miss Maréchal-le Pen, but the idea that to deploy police officers to protect this very principle is an utter waste of their time and money. I hope this letter finds you well and that you can elucidate your position on this crucial matter for those of your constituents who, like me, vote according to their principles. Sincerely yours, Alex J. O'Connor, St. John's College, Oxford University. And to everybody else who's decided to give this letter a read or a listen, even though it doesn't directly affect them, I hope that you noticed that this actually does directly affect you, in the sense that although you may not be in Oxford and you may not be able to attend this speech or the protest against it, you're certainly affected by the principles of free speech that underlie my letter here, and I hope that you can get behind the message. If you don't, do leave a comment, let me know. Free speech is a very controversial issue, especially at Oxford here at the moment. The student newspapers are going crazy over it. I'd love to have as many arguments as possible to contribute to these, so if you have anything important to say, do put it in the description, the comments down below. But until I find the time to make another video, and hopefully a proper one, I've got a bunch of ideas lying around, but it's just about finding the time to put them together. So until that happens, thank you for listening, thank you for reading, or thank you for watching, whichever format you decided to take this letter in, and I hope to see you in the next one soon.